You may have been shocked by the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones, but it had nothing on what this woman did. That is Queen Catherine of France. And she used a similar wedding to lure in her enemies. And by the time she was done, 30,000 of them were dead. She came from the infamous Brindisi family of Italy, married into French royalty, and was the queen until her husband died and her son, King Charles IX, became the king, and she became the queen mother. Queen Catherine was all about protecting her family and their right to rule over France, but they faced an existential threat. Protestants. You see, they were Catholic, and the Protestants and the Catholics had been at war in France for decades. And so in the face of this, Catherine does this amazing thing. She goes to the Protestants and says, I will give you my daughter, the sister of the king, to marry one of your leaders, and that way we can forge a peace. And that does two things to set her trap. First, it convinces them, the Huguenots or the Protestants, that it's okay to go to Paris, which was the stronghold of the Catholics, and that they would be safe. Second, it infuriates the Catholics. They can't believe that their Catholic royalty is going to marry these heretics, a Protestant. She's motivated her base. So all the Huguenot Protestant leaders come to Paris for the wedding. She's lured them in. Now she has to trigger her plan. So 2 days after the wedding, Admiral Coligny, who is a Huguenot and one of their greatest leaders, is walking through Paris when he is shot by an arrow. Historians still argue about who exactly ordered the hit, but at the time, everybody knew it was Queen Catherine. Protestant Huguenots, they respond by moving an army of 4,000 men just outside of Paris. Now she's got the excuse that she needs. And so she calls together her small council of closest advisors and then sends them away and then goes to visit her son, the king. There's no record of exactly what was said at that meeting, but when he walks out, he has a list of 12 Protestant leaders that need to be assassinated. That night, the king's Swiss mercenaries take up positions all around the city. A church bell rings out across Paris, and on that signal, all of those mercenaries go in and they slaughter the Huguenot leaders. And not just the leaders, all of their guards and all of the people with them. It's known as the St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre. In one fell swoop, she has eliminated the Protestant leadership of the Huguenots. But that's only the first phase of the plan. Now she has to engage the enraged mob. And so the next day, rumors start spreading that in a cemetery there was a hawthorn bush that had been dying. And then suddenly at noon, right after the death of the Protestant Huguenots, it began to flower right next to a statue of the Virgin Mary. It's obviously a sign from God to the Catholics that he wants them to slaughter the Protestants. I mean, what else could it mean? The Catholics rise up and begin to slaughter the Protestants. Some estimates are as many as 30 were killed in the resultant massacres. You see, this guy, it's child's play compared to her.